in the next week or so, we will have a new council person here. Thankful that all of you are here, and I wonder why, Chris, do we have so many? Pretty obvious. Anyway, we appreciate you being here at our. This is a work session, so we have we have basically and routinely a work session before we have our regular city council meeting. So there's some work we have to do as we start. This is Tuesday, November 13th, 2018, work session at 6 p.m. And we need to record our names. So here I am, Randy Lewis.
John Mark Knight.
Richard Higginson.
Chris Simonson.
And
Kendall and Harris.
yes, and Kendall and Harris. Thank you, Kendall. We're glad that you're here.
Thanks.
With that, we're going to turn some time over in this work session. We're going to turn some time over to Gary Hill. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. So tonight, our single item of discussion at the work session is the idea of a Veterans Memorial Park or Veterans Park. For some brief background, the idea of a memorial park has been discussed for a while now, really ever since we started considering a plaza and the Creekside Park. The council has shown support and been supportive of finding a location for a memorial, and in fact commissioned a group to rank some potential locations for a memorial in the past. In 2016, that committee gave some recommendations of locations. Those are found in your packet. But since that time, there has been a group who has organized and created a Veterans Park Foundation that proposes to build not just a memorial, but a Veterans Park. And they are here tonight to present the reasons why they think that it's time for Bountiful to have a more substantial way to recognize our veterans. And they have a number of people who will be presenting tonight. Staff has talked a little bit about this, and I think there will be time for discussion after their presentation. But at this time, I'd like to turn the microphone over to Eric Hattabaugh, who's the Vice President, if I understand right, of the foundation.
Mayor, I just need to make a disclaimer that I'm the chairman of the Veterans Park Foundation. And so I just need to make that disclaimer that I am the chairman and Eric is the vice chair. Thank you.
Good. Thank you, Eric.
Great. Mayor and City Council people, we're grateful for your invite tonight to explain a little bit about what we've come up with as far as a Veterans Park. My name is Eric Hattabaugh. I am currently the commander of Post 79 here in Bountiful for the American Legion. John Mark is a member of that Legion, that post as well. So we have met a couple times in the past. I've been in some meetings, and it's been a few years since we've met. We've talked about a Bountiful Memorial Park. We've talked about several different things with council members through the years. But thanks to Chris Simonson, we have finally gotten organized and together, and we've come up with the reasons for the need for a park. And the first being that the Bountiful is the second oldest community in Utah with the second oldest cemetery in Utah. And in turn, in that cemetery are individuals who fought in the War of 1812, the Mexican War, the Civil War, Indian Wars, Spanish-American War, World War II, World War I, World War II, the Korean War, Vietnam, the Gulf Wars, and the Global War on Terror. So we've got Ron Mortensen was good enough to go through the entire cemetery and pick out these individuals who fought in all these different wars through the years. And as you noticed in the one slide, we had all of there were a lot of crosses that were set up, and there's thousands. And the Bountiful American Legion, along with the Kelly family, we put those up every Memorial Day in the park to memorialize those who fought in those wars. So the world's largest and oldest veterans organization, the American Legion, was established in Bountiful in 1935. And in fact, I have the cornerstone at my home that was laid in the first building that was established on just off of Main Street, and it is it was established. The building was finished in 1938, and so that will be incorporated into the park as well somehow. So we've been around for a long time, and it was organized back in actually 100 years ago in 1919. The park, we wanted to remember and honor those who have served and continue to serve and will serve our nation from Bountiful. It would provide a hallowed place in our community to educate children and citizens, and a constant and ever-present reminder to citizens of the community that freedom is to be appreciated, and the servicemen and women and their families should be respected. It's also to inspire the youth of Bountiful to the noble vocation of service in our country's military. Almost every city in Utah has some kind of tribute to their veterans except Bountiful currently. And so that we felt that was a pretty good reason. And I'll go ahead and turn some time over to Julie Hattabaugh.
Good evening. I feel like I'm
Hello.
amongst friends.
You are.
The point that I will share today is why we chose the place that we did for the park. And I know you've probably gone through this in your packet, but I'd like to reiterate this. Before I do, though, I want you to notice on my arm here, there's a bracelet. And I've had this bracelet and worn this bracelet since I was a sophomore in high school. And does anybody know what this bracelet represents, or do you remember what these were?
POW-MIA?
It is. It's a POW-MIA bracelet. His name is Sergeant Gary Harned. He went missing on March 21st, 1970. And we come from a very strong military family, and this is representative of the importance of us always remembering our veterans and what they have done on our behalf. And so this park is not just about being a Veterans Memorial Park to remember those who have passed on, but it's also a park to remember those who are now serving and who will continue to serve in the future. So that's why we have called it a Veterans Park rather than just a Veterans Memorial Park. So our proposed location is directly north here, the grassy area that you see just north. You can see it on that picture there of City Hall. And a couple of bullet points about why we think this will be an ideal selection for the park. The park will be a natural gathering place for veterans, families, and residents to meet, honor, and learn of the sacrifices of our veterans and their families. The park will be an ideal location to hold local patriotic activities and programs on special occasions such as Memorial Day, Veterans Day, 9/11 Handcart Day. Location will be conducive to a peaceful environment where visitors can relax, reminisce, and enjoy the beautiful park and scenery, including our mountains. You can see the LDS Temple from the park location. There's a beautiful creek, Mill Creek, that runs down through it. It's ideal because it's kind of set back from the traffic, and yet it's still a location that's visible and is central to the area. The location has close proximity to schools, which will be ideal for educational field trips. The park will draw local and out-of-town family and friends of veterans to the Bountiful downtown area, thus enhancing business for Bountiful merchants. The location has ample space for the park design, which includes memorial sculptures, walls, flags, seating, pathways, landscaping. The park will blend with the existing landscape and uses, and it will aesthetically enhance City Hall and the City Hall campus. Location is less susceptible to vandalism since the police station is close by. The location will provide for convenient and ample parking. It will be easily accessible by car, bus, bike, or walking. The park will be easily accessible to senior residents living in close proximity, many of whom are veterans or family members of veterans. Locations such as Heritage Place, Legacy, Riley Court, Carriage Crossing, and our park will have a positive impact on surrounding neighborhoods as well as the entire community. And lastly, but not least, the visible location will serve as a continual reminder of the unparalleled sacrifices of our veterans and their families. So thank you for your consideration. And now I turn the time over to Rob Vandegrift, who is the landscape designer of the park.
So I am Rob Vandegrift. I did design this Veterans Park. Prior to designing the park, I needed to work through my thoughts and set some goals on what are some important aspects of such a park. This was not to be just a memorial park, as been said prior. This Veterans Park needed to not only honor our past veterans, but also our living veterans and future veterans and their families. Hence the name, Bountiful City Veterans Park. This Veterans Park needed to be a very special place for veterans and their families, the community, and for visitors to come and feel its impact. Honoring our Bountiful City veterans of various wars and conflicts, and even peacetime veterans, was very important. Veterans' names, both past and present, needed to be recognized. The park needed to be a place where visitors, school children, small and larger groups could come and visit. It should be a place to hold patriotic programs. The design needed to be a simple, clean, colorful, beautiful, meaningful, and easy to maintain. I felt I needed to design the Bountiful City Veterans Park to be the home of one of the most unique, extraordinary, exceptional Veterans Park in the country, and be a destination for visitors to come and visit. The park design must be beautiful, must be stunning. It must be a hallowed park that Bountiful City and its residences will be proud to be the home of this sacred ground. Those were some of my thoughts and goals prior to designing. Now we'll talk about the rendition of the Bountiful City Veterans Park. As you enter the park, you will see the Bountiful City Veterans Park sign within a colorful raised planter and a backdrop of a semicircle of the 5 armed forces flags: Army, Navy, Marines, Air Force, and Coast Guard. The 2 sidewalks that enter the plaza are lined with donation bricks that are purchased by individuals, families, businesses, corporations, and foundations. Also along the 2 main sidewalks would be benches with walkway lighting and lined with flowering trees that creates the beautiful entrance towards the plaza. There will be a lawn berm around the exterior of the plaza. This amphitheater-type feature will add to the intimacy of the park. The lawn berm will be an area of relaxation and reflection for our veterans, their families, and visitors, and also used for seating to listen and possibly participate in a special program. Moving towards the plaza, in the backdrop of the plaza are 3 large flags. The USA flag in the middle, flanked by the Utah State flag on the left and the Bountiful City flag on the right. In the plaza, there will be a dedicated place to honor our POWs and MIAs with its own monument and flag. As you move inside the plaza, you will see a life-size bronze statue as the center focal point of the park. The bronze statue will be stunning and breathtaking on a raised platform. There will be a monument in front of her. Her name is Columbia, and will be designed specific to this Veterans Park with inspiration, spiritual significance, and symbolism. At this point, I would like to introduce the artist of Columbia, Sam Acevedo, to talk a little more in detail about this sculpture.
I was so excited when I heard about this park. My entire life, I've lived right next to the military. My dad, he worked as a housing manager. So we've lived all over the world, Germany, Spain, all over the United States. And as a child in Spain, I sat on our balcony on top of the hill. We didn't live on base because we were civilian, but I watched the military from the Rota base, jump out of helicopters practicing to retrieve astronauts from the pod. And then one day they actually had a pod out there, and we got to see that over and over. And always fellowshipped and went to school on base. And so I have a deep passion and love for the military. So when I heard about this park, I was thrilled, and I knew the centerpiece had to be something wonderful and had to have something from each of the wars, the recent wars. And I thought, what could that be? And I thought, who could hold it? It couldn't be a soldier from one of the wars because it looked like we'd have favoritism or something. And then I remembered Columbia. Today, most people don't know about Columbia. It's not taught in our school, but she is a symbolic personification of the United States. She stands for freedom, the pursuit of liberty. You've probably seen Columbia before. She's usually a goddess-like female, and her robes change. They're not fixed. Sometimes she wears stars and stripes. Sometimes she is all in white, and her headdress is also changed. Sometimes it's a cap of freedom, sometimes it's a feathered headdress, sometimes it's a laurel wreath. Early in World War I, the image of Columbia standing over a doughboy was issued in lieu of the Purple Heart. Also, the Statue of Liberty is symbolic of Columbia, and she's holding the torch. And so now today, when we see Columbia, a lot of times they're holding the torch, like in Columbia pictures. Now that Columbia is holding a torch. Other places that we see Columbia is that is who is standing on the U.S. Capitol, the United States Capitol building. I always thought it was an Indian because I could see the feathered headdresses, but that's Columbia with a war helmet donned with feathers, and she has a sword and a shield next to her. Also on top of the memorial building in Philadelphia, and we often see her at different memorial parks. Our Columbia that I've created here not only is symbolic of the United States, but is especially connected to Utah and Bountiful. I put different things that are connected to her symbolism. So in her hair, I'm going to turn a little bit so you can see her at different angles. In her hair, she's wearing the sago lily and also the wheat. And at her feet, she has the wheat motif. And then she has the bee skep, the beehive, on her bodice, and also some other sago lilies. Then on her ribbon that goes around her waist, it's hard to see from there, but it is donned with stars. Also under her, under here, there is under the shelf, the bowed shelf, is the United States flag. and she's looking down in sorrow at the helmets. I wanted that shelf to be bowed, because just like at home when you put too many books and it gets too heavy, that the sacrifice that our men and women here in Utah has been great. And it's leaning forward a little bit, that it looks almost like it's tipping off and she's about to lose it. That it's almost more than we can bear. The 5 helmets that are on there start off with World War I all the way to the right. And that is the M1917, known as the Bodie helmet. And that was pretty much copied after the British helmet, and it weighed 1.3 pounds. And it would, some loose shrapnel, it would help out a little bit, but there was lots of problems with that helmet, and sometimes when they're trying to get away, their helmets would get stuck and there was no release strap and all kinds of things. And then they improved it a bit, and they came up for World War II. They have the M1, and it was quite heavy. It was 2.85 pounds, almost 3 pounds on your head, and the guys called it the still pot. And the helmet, you can see how high it is in the photos of World War II. The helmet is covering their ears, and it goes way down to the back of the neck. They were trying to protect our boys and women that were over there. They stayed with that helmet, but they rose it up a little bit. The next helmet is the M1, but it was shortened, and I put a netting on it for the Korean War. Then the helmet after that, this one right here, is the M1, but it has camouflage cover and ammo belt with dog tags next to it. You can see some of the bullets there and the dog tags on the side. Then the last helmet right here is the for the ongoing conflict in the Gulf. It's one of the earlier Kevlar helmets. It's called the PASGT, which stands for the Personal Armor System Group Troops helmet. And I chose to put the first version there. And yeah, so this maquette, oh, I also forgot, there's the seagull, and down at the seagull's feet, there are the cherries. And what else did I put? Let's see. Yeah, I think that's about it. So she's a maquette, and what you're seeing here is soft clay. It's different than regular potter's clay. It is combined with kind of like a Vaseline, so it never dries, and it's horrible to travel with. It's like traveling with a wedding cake. You can't touch it, so we just seat bolted in the back. But yeah, so she is a working model for the larger one that would be around 7 feet and on a pedestal. And what is wonderful, sometimes people think bigger is better, but it's not better, because when you see a sculpture far off, you can see it from head to toe, and as you get closer, then you can only see from the waist to the feet, and then you look up and you see from the waist to the head to see the details, and you can't encompass all the detail at once. So we took that into account, and that you can get to an intimate, close space, have a conversation, and still see all the details and feel what she's representing. Okay, thanks.
Have you cast a bronze of this yet?
No, I have not cast the bronze of this yet, and I've had this bid, an exact bid how much this one would be, and then we've also had bids for the larger monument 7 feet one.
Okay, would this be just for Bountiful, or Bountiful and anybody else that would like to purchase?
This one would be just for Bountiful, and what happens, this is a prototype, and so they cover it with a rubber covering, and then they cover that rubber covering with plaster of Paris, and they take it apart. It comes apart in pieces, and she'll actually be cut up, and the helmets come off, and they'll mold each of those individually. And then when one is ordered, they cast that in wax and then in sand mold. Do you have another question?
No.
Yeah, and so it's and then this, I actually squish it up and make something else. But, yeah, so it's just for Bountiful. Thank you. Thanks. Oh, okay. Also, I had an idea. People love seeing sculptures, and in this clay state, of course, I couldn't leave it unbabysat because if you touch it, it squishes. But sometimes you can have it displayed in a secure area, like a bank or like this building, with a glass cover over that. Or we could get it bronzed, but that takes about 2 to 3 months to get it bronzed. But I would love to have it out for fundraising so people can see what is going to be in their park. Okay.
Thank you.
So, as you walk around the inside of the plaza, there will be areas that represent different wars. World War I, World War II, Korean War, Vietnam War, and the Iraq-Afghanistan wars. And Bountiful City veterans that gave the ultimate sacrifice will have a special place on the appropriate monument and be recognized and honored. Also, those who have served and currently serving will individually be recognized for their service on the appropriate monument. At each of the war memorial monuments, there will be interactive stations using technology so patrons will be able to listen to information about the war or specific conflict, or possibly hear inspirational stories about some of our local heroes. There will be a raised area with a ramp up to the platform. Behind the platform will be the largest monument and will have a meaningful, inspirational, eloquent quote engraved. The outer walk around the plaza will also have benches and the amphitheater lawn berm where visitors can sit on the lawn and listen to a special patriotic program or just a time for personal or family time. Also, there will be monuments with bronze statues along the outer walk next to the plaza. In summary, the Bountiful City Veterans Park will be one of the most unique, special, hallowed, inspirational, spiritual parks in the country. The park will be a place where our past and current veterans and their families will be honored. Also, the Bountiful City Veterans Park would be a place where future veterans could feel inspired to serve our country. The Bountiful City Veterans Park will be a place where our veterans and their families and visitors can find peace, solace, and tranquility. I'd like to now introduce our contractor, Mike Eggett, for a short presentation.
Councilman, my name is Michael Eggett, President of JMR Construction. I have been asked to oversee the construction of the Veterans Park, which I am very honored and proud to do so. We are a local general contractor, bonded and licensed with Bountiful City. We have been working with Bountiful City for several years. When this location is approved for the Veterans Park, we will be having the plans drawn up by an architectural designer. We will then submit the plans to the engineering department for approval. We will be constructing the park with the highest quality materials available, and that have been approved by Bountiful City. We are hoping to break ground in the beginning of March using experienced, licensed, and local area contractors. We will not begin the construction of this park until it's fully funded, with the exception of the outer statues. We've already had several major companies want to help with the construction. Once we have completed the